Hey Arnold Schwarzenegger, how's them curls for the girls going, my bud? Hello everyone, my name is Tom, and welcome back to Let's Talk with Tom, and today we're gonna be talking about Hey Arnold. I'm gonna draw this a little high. I can probably lower the illustrations. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyways, when I was a kid, I never really cared for this show. I never really cared for Hey Arnold, despite the fact that, like, my friends, my sister, even my parents were like, yo, Hey Arnold, it's pretty good. I didn't get it. Sometimes I would end up watching an episode that would actually hold my attention and engage me quite a bit, but if I had a choice, I would much rather watch, like, SpongeBob, or Ed, Edd n Eddy, or Rugrats, or pretty much anything that's more lighthearted than this. But maybe it was because I was too young to appreciate how well Hey Arnold executed what it set out to do. Especially a lot of just little things that Hey Arnold does really well that a lot of cartoons kind of miss the mark on. In the week preparing for this video, I watched all of Hey Arnold. Yes, the entire thing. Thank God for double speed. There were some episodes I remember from my childhood. There were quite a few that I did not. I discovered that Hey Arnold is not a perfect show, but it's pretty deserving of the rank that a lot of people put it with the greatest cartoons of all time. However, given the fact that I'm a YouTuber viewer and therefore have to feed into negativity at all times, I gotta be sort of critical. I gotta, point out my nitpicks a little bit here and there and that, but regardless, I got some little things I got to say. The show is pretty formulaic. It's not formulaic in the same way other shows are formulaic, but there's still a formula there that they sort of follow for every story. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a drawback because watching every episode one after another the way I did, it gets kind of repetitive and you start to kind of notice, like, okay, they do this, they set this up, they show several examples, there's a breaking point, and then the breaking point leads to, like, a realization, and then the realization leads to a development in character, and then, like, an acceptance of that development. And that's pretty much the formula. A few times here and there, the flow of logic was kind of weak, and I don't mean, like, flow of logic as in, like, I was expecting this cartoon to follow the laws of the real world. No, I just mean, like, when you establish something in a story, the next thing that follows, like, the immediate thing needs to kind of make sense in relation. It has to follow the same rules, you know what I mean? Like, it has to be consistent. I can't remember any specific examples from Hey Arnold. I just remember noticing that they were there, but I'm gonna try to record the Powerpuff Girls 2016 Let's Talk, and that happens a lot more in that show, so I'll explain it more in depth with examples there. So now the main problem I have with Hey Arnold, which might just be the fact that it's a product of the 90s, is the fact that there's a lot of little outdated tropes and ideas and points of view that are treated as fact in the show. And I mean, it doesn't matter at this point because this show was on the air 20 years ago, and despite the fact that the kids who grew up with it used it to develop their worldviews and some of the things that they got wrong, some adults today who grew up with the show might still believe those things. But regardless, this was 20 years ago. It doesn't really hold that much weight. It doesn't really matter. But it's just, it bugs me because of the fact that it's like, I was watching the show and I'm like, this is so close to being just a timeless classic. But the fact that you have little moments here and there that just take you out of it by being like, yo, 90s ideologies that aren't exactly up to date. For example, they really use the friend zone thing, which, I mean, I guess people still use that, but as a grown-ass man, it's annoying. Like, the fact that I've come across, like, my friends have, like, talked to guys where it's like, they're like, oh, you're friend zoning me, and the dudes are older than me. I'm like, bro, if you're older than me, if you're even my age, if you're, like, over the age of, like, 14, and you still, like, unironically talk about the friend zone, then I don't know why you think that you're mature enough to even be in a relationship at that point. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm being blunt, but the example in the show is Lila. Lila is a character who Arnold is friends with, and she very clearly cares about Arnold and values Arnold as a friend and deeply cares about him, but she doesn't like him. And Arnold spends a lot of time being upset over the fact, like, oh, she should like me. I don't understand. How do I make her like me? And it's like, bruh, she don't want you. Just accept it. Like, I have plenty of friends who are women who I'm very thankful I'm friends with. Like, women who are very attractive, where I'm like, yo, you're like one of my best friends, and I'm thankful for that, and I appreciate you. And I'm happily in the friend zone with you. Like, we're in a mutual friend zone, and it's amazing. Friendship is magic, yo. The thing is this show spends a lot of time teaching lessons and talking about morals, and like tackling these types of things, but they just kind of decided instead we're gonna go with the trope, which I get that Arnold's 9 and it's not that bad for him to be like upset over a girl not liking him, but Arnold's also constantly portrayed as being mature beyond his years and finding new ways to be empathetic and understanding. So maybe it would have been best to have an episode where maybe Arnold just kind of realizes, you know what, Lila's a great friend and I don't need to ruin that by trying to be more than that, because that would send a great message to the viewers, the kids watching who are grown-ass men now still complaining about the friend zone. I mean, I liked how they handled Arnold's love interest before that, which was Ruth McDougal, which is a stupid name, but they handled it better because they kind of used it as a way to say, hey, you know, sometimes you fall in love with the idea of a person and they aren't actually like that, and you'll be disappointed, but it's like, don't idealize people, just accept people for who they are. I like that better, but then like the next 4 seasons, Arnold spends crying over Lila friend-zoning him. Another example where there's a concept that didn't age well was when Mr. Green, the butcher, had a huge pothole outside his shop and he was like, I'm gonna go straight to the councilman and complain to him. When the councilman didn't want to care about the community that he represents, which is a real life thing, you know, sometimes politicians don't care about their community, they just care about getting reelected. But Mr. Green decided, you know what, I'm gonna run for office, which is, you know, that's good, that's direct action. You know, teach kids, like, if you want something done, go out and get it. Like, that's a good message. But the thing is, Arnold gave this whole little pep talk to Mr. Green saying, government is just like a business. You're a businessman, you run your business, your butcher shop, like, if you know how to do that, then you know how to run government. Which we've learned over the years, especially over the last couple of years with, like, everything that's happening in Flint, especially like in Michigan, there's been a trend of politicians trying to run things like a business, and it usually doesn't end well. In general, I think we all know at this point in 2018 that running government like a business usually doesn't work, but that's what they were saying, and it doesn't age well. And again, these are just kind of nitpicks, because back in 2000, you know, you always said that to like the general population, like, yo, government's just running like a business, and people would believe you, but it's not like that anymore. However, beyond those few things that I have a problem with, this show is also very good, and a lot of the lessons that Hey Arnold teaches are actually very valuable and very good lessons to be teaching to young kids. Lessons about accepting yourself and accepting others, and just being more tolerant and being more empathetic and being nicer to people. And basically just doing what's best for other people, your community, and just elevating the people you care about. And the fact that Arnold's character is so empathetic and he's so motivated to go out and help people, it actually does a really good job of exploring the world of Hey Arnold, because you get to see all the different types of people, you get to learn all different types of perspectives, finding their insecurities, their demons, the things that they enjoy, the things that motivate them, their dreams, their hopes. You're able to understand all of that from all different types of backgrounds. And it's such a diverse cast of characters within Hey Arnold that the world becomes so massive because of it. What helps Arnold stand out from other protagonists is the fact that he's not really made to be a stand-in for the viewer. And he's not just one thing. We see a lot of main characters where they just want to go out and help everyone. But Arnold is like that in the sense that he does want to go out, and he's even accused by his grandfather a few times of just taking the weight of the world on his shoulders. But the thing is he has a backbone. He understands when he's being taken advantage of, and he knows how to stand up for himself. And little things like that, and the way that he reacts to things, it makes him distinct as a character. It doesn't make him just a bland everyman where you can see yourself as, so when he's doing the right thing, you can feel like you're also doing the right thing. He feels less like a reflection of the viewer and more like he's your best friend. And honestly, I personally like when a character feels like my best friend, because if you're going to invest your time in a piece of media, you want to be able to connect in some way. But at the same time, it gets kind of boring when it's like, hey, yo, this is you. Especially when the writers kind of show what they think of their audience by writing a very unlikable protagonist as an everyman. I ain't gonna go into examples because we'd be here all day, but I've watched a couple of shows where I'm like, damn, this is what you think of me as a viewer? Like, this is the guy you gave me to latch onto, to experience this story through? Like, this guy? Really? But Hey Arnold does a great job of giving audiences ways to connect to the characters and all the characters, just through their different strengths and weaknesses, and honestly, like, The characters are one of the biggest draws of this show. One of the best parts of the show is how they write different characters and how well they differentiate them to stand out on their own. What I think Hey Arnold does better than any other cartoon is it shows a very honest view on the world. It's not a sanitized, age-appropriate, like, oh, everything's great, everyone's happy portrayal of the world, but it's also not like a Ralph Bakshi-esque, like, oh, my art is offensive and disgusting because that's what the world is like out there. It's disgusting, people are awful, everything is evil. It's not like an overly pessimistic view of the world. It's very honest, which people associate the idea of cynicism with realism, which looking at the world in a cynical way is just as unrealistic as looking at it in an overly positive way. And at the same time, the show is very positive, the show is very optimistic, but you can't be optimistic without acknowledging some of the bad things that are in the world. And also, just because we try and hide our kids from all the bad things in the world doesn't mean the kids don't know they're out there or even encounter them in the world when parents aren't around. Hey Arnold tackles things like rejection, loss, alcoholism, poverty, crime, even adultery. And you might be thinking, well, you know, they're kids. They aren't supposed to know anything about this, but thing is a lot of them do. And some of you might be a little naive and be like, well, how would a kid even know about that stuff? Well, honestly, just because people have kids doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready or qualified to take care of kids. Just because you have a kid doesn't mean you're a perfect person. It doesn't mean that your partner isn't going to cheat on you. It doesn't mean that they aren't going to be abusive because you have a kid. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to lose a family member that your child cares about, and they have to deal with the emotional ramifications of that, even if they aren't necessarily old enough to cope with that. And the thing is these are all things that, even though we would prefer children not go through them, they're still going to go through them. The same way that we as adults would rather not go through some of our struggles, they still happen. And the way we look to art to portray those struggles and give us ways of coping with them, kids are doing the same thing. And the fact that Hey Arnold respects kids enough to say, hey, we're going to deal with these issues that we know that kids deal with, it says a lot, and it's actually very important. And it's exactly why Hey Arnold managed to resonate with an entire generation, because they treated kids with respect by dealing with these issues in an age-appropriate way. And now that I got all deep on you, I'm going to talk about the stakes of the show and how well the show deals with stakes, because this is also very important, because when you watch Hey Arnold, you never feel like you know exactly what's going to happen. In some shows, you know, you might see they establish a goal and you think, oh, well, they're not actually going to get there. They're not actually going to achieve the goal. They're just going to make a story out of the fact that they aren't able to achieve that goal. However, in Hey Arnold, even when it seems like things aren't going to pan out, sometimes they do. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes Arnold or his friends or whoever, they reach the goal that they set out to achieve in the beginning of the episode. Or they'll realize that the goal that they set out to achieve was harmful to someone. A good example of this is the Big Caesar episode. The episode Big Caesar is about a myth within the neighborhood that Arnold lives in, that in their local lake, there's a giant prehistoric fish that got trapped there when the tectonic plates shifted back when everything was Pangea, you know, all that. So Arnold and Gerald set out to catch this fish, and they're like, you know, when we catch it, we're gonna be famous. But like, everyone's like, it doesn't exist, it's not real. But then they go out and they actually catch it. They actually achieve that goal that seems very unrealistic. The thing is, though, is Arnold looks over the boat and sees Big Caesar and has a moment of humanity and realizes what we're doing is incredibly inhumane. This fish is just in this lake trying to live, and he convinces Gerald that they should let it go. So then they go back and they don't have anything, and it's kind of underwhelming, but you know that they did the right thing. And there are multiple points where it's like they set out to achieve goals and then they don't achieve their goals. It's honest about the fact that, you know, people are going to make mistakes, and it doesn't matter if you're a kid, you're an adult. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes you screw up. And we're all going to do it, you know, nobody's perfect. And what Hey Arnold does is it honestly tells the audience that the world isn't perfect, and by proxy, the people in the world aren't perfect. Because the people in the world aren't perfect, and nobody's perfect, it's okay for you to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. You just have to get up and try again next time. Just because you failed once, just because you made a mistake, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that you gotta get up and try again. And I think that's a really good lesson to teach people. Anyways, I think that's all I got. Thank you for watching Let's Talk with Tom on the Roundtable, but Tom isn't just on the Roundtable. I have my own self-titled personal channel. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I have a Snapchat, I have all that good stuff. In fact, I even have a Tumblr. So, if you're interested in any of that, check that out. and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!